Many parts of Hong Kong see 35 degrees or above, while a tropical depression forms in South China Sea. Israel and Lebanon agree to ceasefire on condition that Hezbollah stops firing. And Volodymyr Zelensky says attack on St. Petersburg facilities entirely justifiable. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The very hot weather warning is in effect, with the observatory recording temperatures as high as 34.2 degrees Celsius, while several other parts of the city saw temperatures reach 35 to 37 degrees. This as a tropical depression is currently moving towards Taiwan. Weather authorities note there is a low chance of a tropical cyclone warning signal being issued. Timothy Lee has more.
Under the influence of a tropical depression, areas throughout Guangdong province have been experiencing weak winds and intense heat. As of 2 p.m., a basketball court in Shengshui recorded a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Many residents could be seen coming up with various ways to cool down. This woman says she has this fan with her, but even the wind is hot. While this man says he feels like he's being steamed alive and brought along some wet wipes to lower his body temperature. This as the observatory recorded temperatures peaking at 34.2 degrees this afternoon, while various other territories reached above 35 degrees, with the highest temperature recorded in the new territories. The very hot weather warning is set to last until Friday. Bowie Chan, a scientific officer at the observatory, says while temperatures in urban areas are only expected to reach 34 degrees, it will be around 2 degrees hotter in the new territories, adding the city will likely experience thunderstorms this evening. Weather authorities note the tropical depression is currently moving from north of the South China Sea to Taiwan, maintaining a distance of 500 kilometers from the city. They stress the likelihood of issuing a tropical cyclone warning signal is extremely low. Meanwhile, the southern Chinese coast will likely experience heavy rainstorms between the weekend and the middle of next week, owing to the effects of a trough of low pressure. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Scammers posing as government officials defraud an excess of $280 million in the first quarter, more than doubling last year's record. Police say they received 160 reports of such fraud, with 42 cases involving mainland Chinese students studying in Hong Kong. In one case, the student was forced to stage her own kidnapping in Thailand to extort money from her family. The caller alleged the victim was involved in illegal financial transactions and even wore police uniform in a video call. The fraudsters forced her to sign a confidentiality agreement and imposed round-the-clock monitoring. She was forced to lie to her parents about pursuing further studies in Thailand and persuaded them to transfer 1 million renminbi. Later, the victim was asked to travel to Thailand and to send staged photos of her injuries and kidnapping to her family. The scammer demanded an additional $400,000 ransom. Hong Kong police later reached out to Thai police and located the victim within 12 hours. A couple arrested on suspicion of child neglect has been granted bail. They failed to acquire a birth certificate for an infant boy they claim to have given birth to at home. The pair subsequently agrees to participate in a DNA test. Sources say the test confirms blood relations between the couple and the baby. Timothy Lee tells us more.
The couple has been granted bail a day after being taken in by the police for questioning. They were brought to the Immigration Department's headquarters to further assist with the investigation, after which the pair left separately. This as the couple earlier claimed they had given birth to a baby boy named Danny at home, but never brought him to the hospital for a health check. The father, surnamed Zhang, says the police had good intentions when conducting the arrest, noting they simply wanted to clarify the couple's relationship with the baby. The mother, surnamed Kwan, emphasizes Hong Kong authorities have treated them better than those in Europe and expresses her gratitude to the Hong Kong community for their concerns. The couple earlier claimed their refusal to comply with the Immigration Department's request for a DNA test was for privacy reasons, resulting in their inability to acquire a birth certificate for the boy. They ultimately agreed to provide their DNA samples to authorities. Zhang says the police advised them to cooperate with the immigration department so their relationship with the boy could be quickly proven. He adds he and his partner are reassured their son is taken into protective care and they can visit him regularly. The couple says authorities also suggested they sign a declaration which will allow their DNA samples to be sent to Sweden, where their daughter Lily remains under protective care. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Israel and Lebanon agreed to renew their fragile ceasefire and create a number of security zones inside Lebanon from which Hezbollah militants will be banned. In an interview, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says enduring truce in the wars in the Middle East can only be achieved through disarming Hezbollah and demilitarizing Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israel continues its attacks in Lebanon with the latest round of strikes hitting Hezbollah's weapons depot. Gloria Feng has the story.
Sitting down with U.S. Department Chief of Staff Don Holler, Israeli and Lebanese envoys agreed to renew their ceasefire and create a number of pilot security zones in Lebanon from which Hezbollah militants would be banned. A joint statement from the two countries reiterates the ceasefire is contingent on a complete cessation of Hezbollah fire. Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Yashil Latir says the militant group must leave South Lebanon and will be guaranteed a safe passage as long as they retreat back to the north.
Hezbollah is going to understand that there is now an agreement between Israel and Lebanon, backed by the United States. The pilot zone project will be guided by the United States. Special units in the Lebanese army will take control of various areas and gradually spread out throughout the south so we don't go into another pattern where Israel leaves, Hezbollah comes back, and we go through the same thing for the past 40 years.
In an interview with CNBC, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoes similar sentiments while calling Hezbollah an Iranian proxy. He says Iran's nuclear disarmament is the only way towards enduring peace in the Middle East.
Lebanon has been taken hostage by Hezbollah. It's basically taken over the country. It's an Iranian proxy that puts all the citizens of Lebanon at gunpoint and uses Lebanon as a platform to launch terror missiles into our cities, to launch killer drones against our civilians. And so if we want to save Lebanon, and if we want to get a Lebanese-Israeli peace, as I do, we have to disarm Hezbollah and we have to demilitarize Lebanon.
Meanwhile, Israel continues its attacks in Lebanon, with its most recent efforts targeting a Hezbollah weapons depot. And just hours ahead of the diplomatic talks in Washington, Israeli troops targeted a highway in Beirut. Gloria Feng, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump is facing warnings from foes and allies alike that he's getting boxed in on the Iran war, a conflict he sold as a brief military incursion, but that has since settled into a holding pattern. This as the U.S. House approves a war powers resolution that would halt the U.S. military action against Iran. Tracy Furness has more.
Wednesday's action in the House defied President Donald Trump as a handful of Republicans joined the Democrats to end the 3-month-long war with Iran.
On this vote, the yeas are 215 and the nays are 208. The concurrent resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
House Speaker Mike Johnson had tried to prevent an outcome that would show the mounting opposition to the war. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, President Trump said negotiations with Iran were going very well and downplayed that U.S. and Iranian strikes are testing the fragile ceasefire.
Mr. President, given Iran's attacks on Kuwait, this latest attack on Kuwait, is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Well, you know, there's a reason for everything. And we hit them pretty hard the night before and actually last night. And when it was explained to me, I said, all right, so we'll do that. The negotiation itself has gone very well, actually. Very well.
Mr. President.
It could happen. I mean, if it happens, and it might not happen, you know, who knows? But if it happens, it could happen like over the weekend.
The United Nations has expressed alarm over the reported exchange of fire between Iran and the US and the targeting of Kuwait and Bahrain by Iranian forces. Iranian drones heavily damaged a passenger terminal at Kuwait's main airport Wednesday, killing at least one person, wounding dozens and briefly closing the airfield.
The Secretary General is alarmed by the reported exchange of fire overnight between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, and also by reports that the Islamic Republic of Iran has targeted Kuwait and Bahrain. He is deeply troubled by the reports of civilian casualties. The Secretary General calls on all parties to exercise maximum restraint and to avoid any further escalation that risks to undermine ongoing diplomatic efforts.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Ukrainian drones target an oil terminal in Russia's St. Petersburg in a latest slew of attacks between the two nations. This just hours ahead of an economic forum which Russian President Vladimir Putin was on his way to attend. At a NATO news conference, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calls the hit a justified response to a massive attack on his country the day prior. Gloria Feng has more.
Footage shows smoke rising over the Russian city just hours before some 20,000 people from 130 countries gather for the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Russian President Vladimir Putin was among those set to make an appearance at the event on Wednesday that showcases his country's latest economic advances. Russian authorities say the Ukrainian drone strike targeted the city's infrastructure, leaving flights at its airport briefly suspended and mobile internet service cut off. The attack comes as retaliation against Russia's latest military actions against Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says. At a NATO press briefing, a reporter asked Zelensky whether Ukraine's latest attack on St. Petersburg was targeting Putin specifically. Zelensky skirts the claims, saying he does not have an app tracking Putin's whereabouts. He does, however, say that the attack is a justified response to hits against his country just a day ago, and that his forces only strike oil refineries and other legitimate targets. Also on Wednesday, a Ukrainian drone reportedly killed 8 people on a passenger bus in the Russian-controlled part of Ukraine's Donetsk region in Crimea. Gloria Feng, TVB News.
And still ahead, California police shoot and kill hostage taker. 3 British military personnel die in Devon after helicopter crash. And Hong Kong professor flourishes in Kazakh university. Welcome back. The FBI kills a hostage taker in California's Bakersfield, bringing a 15-hour standoff to an end. The hostages are found unharmed in a building that houses a bank and a school district office.
First and foremost, I do want to let everyone know that we're incredibly relieved to report that all of the hostages that were involved have been safely recovered and reunited with their families. There were a total of 10 members of our community whose lives were changed yesterday. Unexpectedly, but we are thankful that they have been reunited with their loved ones after this ordeal.
The suspect, Anthony Scott Searles Harris, had a history of violence and was a registered sex offender. The standoff began at around 1 p.m. Tuesday when officers responded to a call of a bomb threat at the Chase Bank building. The police's crisis negotiation team talked with the suspect by phone, and 2 hostages were released that night. The suspect was eventually shot and killed early Wednesday morning. The Obama Presidential Center will open to public on the American federal holiday of Juneteenth after a celebratory dedication in Chicago with dignitaries. But tens of thousands of people are getting a sneak peek as crews finish final art installations and landscaping. The roughly $850 million project covers both the political and personal realms of the nation's first Black president. Campaign memorabilia and presidential artifacts are displayed in the admission-based museum tower, while public spaces of the sprawling campus feature other things important to Obama: a new library, basketball court, and picnic area with grills. Unlike other presidential museums, Obama's doesn't contain reams of official papers. It's the first fully digitalized presidential museum where unclassified documents can be viewed through a website they are calling a digital reading room. Britain's Royal Navy says 3 of its members have died in a helicopter crash during a training exercise in southwest England. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the deaths were utterly tragic. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Britain's Royal Navy said the helicopter went down in a field in the county of Devon in England just before 4 a.m. UK time on Wednesday. The British Navy's head general, Gwyn Jenkins, said he was deeply saddened to share the news that 3 crew members on board a Royal Navy Merlin Mk4 helicopter have died after the crash. He said an investigation is underway and further updates will be provided later. The British Ministry of Defence said the families of the service personnel killed have been informed. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the deaths were utterly tragic.
Mr. Speaker, I'm also aware of a Royal Navy helicopter crash this morning in Devon. This will be a deeply worrying time for the families, and more information will be set out as soon as possible.
Merlin helicopters, such as the Merlin Mk4 involved in the incident, usually have a crew of 4 and can carry up to 24 troops. The Merlin helicopter is primarily used for anti-submarine warfare, search and rescue, cargo transfers, and maritime patrol. Danaral TV News.
The Five Eyes alliance formed by the US, UK, Canada, Australia and New Zealand warned Chinese spies are using online job platforms to recruit people with access to sensitive or classified information. Beijing slams the claim as malicious slander. On Wednesday, the group issued a joint statement saying Chinese spies target people in defense, diplomacy and intelligence sectors, including personnel stationed in the Indo-Pacific region, as well as journalists and think tank members. It says spies would post fake job ads, then conduct interviews to determine whether candidates have access to key fields before asking them to write trial reports on topics such as China's international relations or national defense. Each report can earn rewards ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Last November, the UK's MI5 also warned Chinese spies were attempting to contact members of the UK Parliament through LinkedIn. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning says the Five Eyes alliance, as the world's largest intelligence cooperation alliance, has long been conducting systematic espionage activities around the world. Mao says for such a body to accuse China of being a spy threat is ironic. Chief Executive John Lee and his delegation arrived in Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, for the second stop of their Central Asia tour. The two sides agreed to discuss the implementation details of a mutual visa-free arrangement, which would allow a visa-free period of 30 days for visitors from both sides. Upon arrival, Chief Executive John Lee met with Uzbek Foreign Minister Bakhtiyor Saidov and witnessed the exchange of notes between the two governments. The governments of both places will now advance the discussions of the detailed arrangements to strive for early implementation. Currently, Hong Kong SAR passport holders can visit Uzbekistan visa-free for 10 days. Uzbekistan passport holders need entry visas to visit Hong Kong. Chief Executive John Lee's visit to Central Asia is stirring interest in Hong Kong about countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. A Hong Kong researcher has been working at a Kazakh university for 8 years, leading a team of over 10 local students on a cutting-edge technology project. The university's president believes more Hong Kong students and teachers will follow in the future. Timothy Lee reports.
Dr. Wu Yue graduated from the University of Hong Kong with a PhD in physics. She then conducted research on nanomaterials and solar energy devices at the Polytechnic University. In 2018, she decided to continue her research at Nazarbayev University, the tertiary education institute Chief Executive John Lee visited earlier. She was provided with a 1,400 square foot laboratory and $2 million in research startup funding to purchase laboratory equipment from Europe and the US. Her research areas include the application of third-generation perovskite solar cells, which offer high energy conversion efficiency. These cells are also lightweight and have strong translucency. She says for solar energy cells and the materials she's researching for perovskite, there are already over 500 startups or material suppliers in China, but Kazakhstan has none, so she sees this as an opportunity. She says there are in fact more opportunities in every field and every industry. Meanwhile, compared with the fast pace of Hong Kong, there's more time to discover new things in Kazakhstan. Founded in 2009, Nazarbayev University uses English as the teaching medium. Its current focus includes medicine, energy, and science. In 2013, President Xi Jinping gave a speech at this university where he first proposed the Belt and Road Initiative. The university president calls it profoundly significant.
It means a lot to us as an institution because it shows to the world that this small university in Kazakhstan is significant. Hong Kong is ahead of Kazakhstan in terms of being an innovation hub. You have an innovation ecosystem that we very much want to emulate. Established colleagues in Hong Kong and China who may be interested in applying for jobs, and if they do, we'll be delighted.
The university has about 8,000 students and 500 faculty members from 40 countries. The president believes that following the Hong Kong SAR government's Central Asia trip, academic exchanges and research collaboration between the two places will continue to deepen. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.